Well, I'm happy to bring on a guest that's going to delve into some issues that are pertinent to our local Eagle County constituents, and specifically focusing on Avon residents. So I've got Todd Roehr here from Mine House, but also the Avon Recall Committee. So let's start with a little bit of background, because I myself was slightly ignorant to what was going on with this. So I would see articles in the paper about this going on, but never really dove too much into it. So where does this recall committee stem from?
So in 1991, every state has basically a system of recalling the people that you voted for. In 1991, the recall election laws were changed, and the people that were really pushing that back in that days were actually from Steamboat Springs. So. And those were the legislators that kind of made the changes in the legislation. So the basic idea behind a recall election to begin with is that everybody should have a voice. So it's not just, as you were asking me a little bit earlier off camera here, it's not just if you're the majority, you can squelch everybody else's voice and everybody else's opinions. And the recall system is basically a way for minority views and minority individuals to have a voice, so that the people that we have elected listen to not just the majority of people, but listen to everybody, that everybody gets a voice in government, and that we don't make laws and we don't make rules that don't consider everybody more or less equally. So for instance, back in when we were making the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin, they were making fun of democracy. Benjamin Franklin made the statement that democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what they're going to have for lunch. Okay, so we don't have an old-fashioned democracy that was in place in Athens, for instance, in ancient Athens and ancient Greece. We have a representative government that's supposed to listen to everybody, and everybody's supposed to have some kind of voice in government. And the recall laws are basically designed so that people that have been squelched or have not had their voices listened to get a chance to actually speak, and then we don't end up, and the end process ends up becoming that the people that are voted in don't pay attention to just the majority of people.
So the mayor of Avon was elected in 2017. What actions spurred the recall committee to desire a recall? So
there were several things going on at that time. There was a big discussion about whether the town of Avon should move an old barn that was on the left for where we're putting our wastewater treatment plant. And there was a discussion about that over several town council meetings, and during those discussions, a couple of the councilors even said, I don't think we should fund this because the majority of people won't want to have this happen. And then they went off and had some meeting someplace, and then came in and voted to have this thing moved at the cost of $7 million. That triggered a lot of people to all of a sudden come in and to the next town council meeting and say, that's a waste of money. So that was one of the several impetuses of not listening to people that initiated people to start signing these petitions.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was that not overturned? Did that barn actually get demolished and not moved?
So what happened then was that an actual election was triggered over that, and 90% of people came in and said, no, we don't want to spend $7 million.
Yeah.
And so then the following meeting, without much fanfare, the people who had voted to spend $7 million on this, moving this barn, came back and said, well, we're not going to spend this money after all. And then as happenstance went forward with history, what is now history, the barn was actually torn down, and the only real remnant that the town of Avon has of that is a board that they have in front of an actual bar where we're serving beverages during some of our outdoor events here in our in a lovely park.
So the recall is more due to a lack of trust as a result of the behind closed door meetings, even though ultimately the right thing, if you were, was done and the money was not spent and the barn was demolished.
So, right. So in the process of going down the election process and whether they should have a recall election or not, in my view, would have been best thing to have happen would have been just to discuss that in a town meeting about whether you should have the election, whether and what the actual law had to say.
Yeah.
And that would have been an open discussion, with everybody could weigh in, and we could have a process that went forward in an efficient fashion. What happened instead was the people who were on this committee got blindsided, and a lawsuit was brought against them individually. As P.J. Jenick, one of the recall committee members, continues to note, he says, "I got this knock on the door and handed this paper that said, I'm going to have to pay $100,000 in legal fees to just be able to have a voice." Well, what I've come here to talk about in the past has been, catecholamines in the brain.
Yeah.
So when you get something that's unusual in a stimulus like that, your brain floods with catecholamines, and you are able to make that memory pretty clearly. And it's a very emotional event as well. So he remembers that very well. So it should have been just something, in my view, something we just openly talked about. Instead, it's been these closed door sessions where people that have the public purse have been attacking people, the committee and the people that have signed these petitions, and trying to squelch their ability to have a voice and basically get the thing over with. So they've drug it out and drug it out. There's been a discussion in the papers about what it costs to have a recall election. The town has actually used my attorneys that at Garfield and Heck that I've had as attorneys ever since I started opening a business here in town, and I've not been able to use my usual attorneys because the town has taken them away from me. We had to hire a different attorney from Denver to come up, and rather than just have a quick, easy discussion, get the election over and done with, the recall committee has legal fees currently of $64,000, and they're continuing to go on because the town and the attorneys that the town is paying are dragging this thing out and going off in directions that really doesn't belong to be going in. And so I've even gone so far as to actually put another page on our website to allow people to donate to our cause, because what is actually happening is that the people that are sitting on town council and have the public purse are exacting payment and pain from the people who just want to have an open discussion and allow people to actually go forward and have a vote. And
so it's all about just providing more voice to the people.
Yeah, I think that's what the law is originated to do, if you listen to the voice of the people, it's actually a fairly quick and easy process. What's happening instead is, in the town of Avon, is they're using a legal process to drag the discussion out and to exact pain against the people who just want to have a quick and easy election. I've even had text messages and phone calls from Chico Thune, who we lobbied to actually try to have the discussion openly in town council. And his message back to us was Paul Weiser, the town attorney, told Chico to pass along the message to us and say, well, if Todd just quits, the pain will go away. That's really a gross abuse of a legal process and a gross abuse of the power of an elected body.
Yeah. Well, it's
Go ahead.
sorry to cut you off. But we are.
We gotta
go.
go.
We gotta
Yeah.
keep moving. But it
Yeah.
is fascinating local governments. If you want to find out more about what's going on with the Avon Recall Committee, is there a website people can go to?
So yeah, we've set up, so it's minehouseUSA.com/Avon Recall.
Okay.
And there's a button on there that says donate, and you can help us parlay some of the expenses, but you could, it also, you can give us a call, or you can come by and we'll talk to you anytime.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Todd.
Thanks,
Best
Eric.
of luck going
Thanks.
forward.
Thanks.
And get involved with your local governments. Attend the town council. Have your voice heard, and find out more about the Avon Recall Committee as going forward. And I believe there are elections this year in Avon. So if you want to get your voice heard, make sure to always vote, ladies and gentlemen. We got more Good Morning Vail coming up next.